Welcome back. Um, Today's lesson is about mixed hands. We have already discussed three basic hands. We have a pointed hand, a square hand, and flat hand. And the mixture of all these three is called the mixed hand. Mixed hand is usually a mix of all three in one way or the other. It could be because your palm is either too tall, square, wide from the top and bottom, and your fingers could be different, especially the fingernails. So, a a usual general impression of a hand when you look at somebody's hand, if they look ugly or they look nice and pretty, will represent their the personality of the owner of the hand himself or herself. In the very beginning, we discussed the different hands and the owner of the hands, like celebrities, the religious people, or the film actors from the film industry, and we showed how their hands were actually relating to their personality. So usually, when you look at a personality itself, the hands usually are more like their own personality. It's like there's a match between the personality, whole personality, and the hand itself. But what if they look different? So you can have a person who is looking very sophisticated, but his hands are too rough. He's maybe too many hair and very rough skin, um, ugly looking, maybe. It's not the word to use, but let's say just to make a point. So, so what if it's ugly looking? So we create a kind of an impression about when we look at a hand. We say, okay, this is in my standards. And again, beauty is very much cultural and intuitive. You really, this is your own self that actually looks at something and determines if it's beautiful or not. But by all means, as a standard, when a beautiful hand is really the sophisticated hand, the lengths are, the proportion of the beauty are there, the proper length. It's not like this portion is small, like really tiny here, and the fingers are literally double as much. And I think one of the hands I showed in the very beginning, where the fingers were extremely tall, and I'll share at the end of the video. You can look at different kind of hands again. That when things look out of proportion, then probably the mixed hand has an overwhelming impression or quality of another hand. So you need to look at it. So the beautiful hands are the beautiful personality. Sensitive hands are the sensitive personality. Harsh and tough hands, like the laborer a hand that I shared earlier in one of the videos, where the hand is fully, you have a dead skin, huge cracks in the and the lines are like very very deep. All the mounts and the meat itself is projecting. The top fingers, the first part of the finger, are like really drum like, drumstick like, like a hammer like, very wide and strong, and very physical, square hands. So you can look at it and you can say, yes, it's a, but by mere look, you can say it's a hand of a laborer. And at the same time, you can look at a person, a hand of the artist, or a feminist, or a male hand or a female hand. You can actually, by looking at, you can distinguish, okay, this is a woman's hand and a man's hand, because of their the beauty or the make of it. So these are kind of a mixed hand. So you will have One finger may be pointed, the other could be square, one could be flat. And again, we discussed that, the let's say if you have a index finger, and that index finger is related to Jupiter. So if Jupiter is a success, or being a very bringing you luck, and being very actionable, being very volatile, strong, making things work your way, and you get lucky because of that. And the risk also, what is your temperament when it comes to taking risk, or being careful or not being too careful, that kind of a nature. So if you have a flat first pore, it means different. And if your second is different. So if it's pointed or flat or square, it's going to make a difference. So flat pointed will be more like intuitive. So square will be more practical, binding, being there, fixed nature. And if it's flat, naturally it's being more entrepreneur, industrious, and doing things in a very wide way. So each finger will translate itself into, just because how it, the first part will be. So that's kind of a mixed hand. So the mixed hand, generally speaking, an average mixed hand is a person who actually is more acceptable in the society, is part of the main society, is found everywhere. So most of the people you will come across, they will have a mixed hand, and then they will add a color to the society. They will be more everyday, within the active life, and the society, and they're doing things like, one is, somebody who's actually doing practical things, somebody who's drawing something and doing the artwork, or somebody is actually making it happen. So those kind of people. So the average hand will always be there. This is how it's going to add up to the society. So they're kind of, jack of all. They're mostly trendy towards doing everyday chores, and things that come across. They can fix their own. They can paint their own room, and they can put a nail in their wall and hang the picture. They can do anything. They are like, they can be very handy people within their own environment. So they are kind of a more practical people. On the other hand, if a hand which looks more ugly, rough, and that, you can also make up that, the sophistication of his soul and body, and the brain. So a person who is more sophisticated in the three qualities of the, that is the body, soul, and your brain, will also reflect on the hand itself. So by looking at the hand, you are actually are able to you are able to portray a person. It's like reflecting hand to the personality, a personality to the hand. So either way, so you look at it, and you can actually make up some kind of a determination that is, this person is whether very rough, maybe he's an angry person. Like one of the videos I said that, an angry person, you can actually look at the face, and you can say, angry people will have, very stretched features, and their eyes will be, stretched, and you will see a kind of a blood rushing to their face, and they're squeezing their eyes in a way to get into some, the bottom of a thing, and so you can rush into it. So they're always like on their toes to grab something and make it an excuse to fight. You must have seen those people around you who can actually just pick up on something and make it an issue. So you can actually make it from their faces and their hands will actually give you. So their hands are very rough. The proportion is always off, and there will not be a definite personality, that will show that they are like sophisticated people. One of the feature of the hand is that, if their hands are as compared to the body, if they are literally, they look very tiny. Literally you can feel it. That hands are as compared to the body, they are like really very tiny. Let's say they were supposed to have a 4-inch hand, and then you see they are no, they're like 2.5 inches or 3 inches. They look much smaller than as compared to the body. This is not a good sign. No, these people are very mean people. They can be nuisance for you. They are not balanced people. You can't expect anything sophisticated from them. They are not balanced people. Their reasoning is not balanced. They are not really educated people. They don't like to go. Even if they get some degree or they get some education, their fundamental core personality will remain as such, that they are really very rough and mean people. So they don't have any means. They actually fair means. They don't play fair means. They don't go with the fair means. They always play rough, and they want everything for themselves. They are kind of a selfish people. And they don't have any values for that matter. When naturally they want everything for them, and they're self-centered, so their values are based upon the same therapy or same mental attitude. So they don't care about other people. They're self-centered. They're egoistic. They want things for themselves. Everything revolves around them. So that's a small hand. Same, and then if this same hand, if it is the same normal size, obviously it's a normal personality. And if it grows out to a bigger hand, then you can see, oh, what, this man is this tall, but hands are really big. So this quality then goes the other way around. They're just the opposite of it. So you will have to differentiate between small, medium, and the large hands, and from mean to be very extravagant hand. People like too big. This palm, literally, with a palm, with a big palm, is a person who will just, if you're sitting on a table, you say, "Oh, stop! I'll pay." He will just, it's just extravagance. Right? He will just doesn't care about himself. He's always caring about others and doing things, and he's lavish with a larger hand. But I'll cover on the bigger hand in a few minutes' time. In the small hand, there's another problem with the small hand. These people are, they could be temperamentally more greedy, and they can be deceptive too. Because they're greedy, so they tend to be deceptive, and they tend to make things up to lure you into something. So you will find them talking, blah blah blah. They're always trying to convince you for something. And then they put a trap for you, and because they're mean, so they are ruthless also. So that's what you have to be. And then again, this is small hands. Then there will be too meaty hands, less meaty hands, very thin hands. They also mean something in that sense. So if small hands, tiny hands, are meaty. They're more meat, fluffier. These people may be more lustrous, um, and these people are they really don't want to work. They avoid any hardships or any hard work. They just tend to have things by way of talking, luring people in, deceptions, and they want to have, and you will find them um, little more towards physical desires, so and that tendency has to be matched with the Mars and rest of the fingers, and also with the Mars and Venus. So don't make it's just a general judgment. If you see a tiny hand, doesn't mean that the guy is really bad. So maybe the heart line is very good. Maybe the life itself and brain is very nice. So maybe a person maybe little on this side, but sometimes people reform themselves. So so it's a general impression. It's not the finality as a structure. Because again, if you have a highway going, so you have a 3 lane going in a highway, and then there is a 4th lane that comes up and it serves as a ramp, so you can take an exit and go out of the road and go somewhere else. So certain lines and certain things on your hand will mean something else. So you actually have to. So don't make your final examination as final just because you saw a shorthand, but that's the canvas of it. Okay, so take it as a canvas, then determine if it is this person is really on this side or that side. So, like I said, if there's a small hand, on the other hand, if it's a bigger hand, the tendencies will always be opposite. Just like pointed hand. So pointed hand, when it goes normal, it becomes square, and then square when it becomes wider, it becomes flat. So it's the same hand. So it's just a tendency, thin, wider, and then the more wide. So same way, small, medium, and large. So the quality of a person will remain the same. It's just the tendency will increase. So with a smaller hand, that kind of, naturally everybody wants things for themselves. Who doesn't? So you want to have things you're going to do. You want to spend your money on yourself. So you are kind of selfish in that sense. But if you say, okay, you know what, I don't want to work, and your money is my money, and I have to get it by deception, now you're a different person. So these qualities will show in the hand. But again, never ever judge a person from one quality alone. Always get 1, 2, or maybe 3 testimonies, minimum 3 testimonies to say this person is now definitely this person. So just like in astrology, I usually say that, for example, a person is a perjurer. He forges the documents, for example. So his Mercury is in a place where he does that. It makes him forge the documents. You must have seen people, they make fake IDs, they make fake documents and all those kind of things. They go around and do that. So when that happens, this person has a Mercury in certain area, in certain placement in his chart. Now, the question is he doing it all the time? Maybe not. Maybe a person who just needs to go somewhere and he just needs to make one document once in his lifetime. He never did that before and he's not going to do it again, ever. So in one transit, in the going around and around and around, and let's say in the age of 28, he come across a certain situation where this Mercury puts him in a situation where he needs to forge a document, and then it's done with it, and he will never come back. So it's just one transitory one thing that is happening in one's life. Okay, but it has happened. But on the other hand, a person who does it as a profession, people who are out there, they will ask you for money and they will make you documents, They do that all the time. So those placements, you will see in their chart that they will reflect all across in their chart that they are forgers. So not one, two, or three, maybe more testimonies. Same way, in your hand, if a person has a definite character which reflects all the time, then the testimony will be everywhere in the hand. You will see that the quality of life will reflect it, and then the quality of brain line will reflect it, your heart line, your marriage lines will, your fingers will, your fingernails will. They will all be testifying about who you are. And it says, you know what? One day there will be a day when all your bodies will testify against you, right? So this is the testimony, right there. It's you're forming your body as you reflect what you do. It reflects on your body. Okay, so a small hand, a very short small hand, tiny, literally, along with the fingers. It's just not that palm is small. Palm small and long fingers, entirely different meanings. Small fingers, bigger palm, entirely different meanings. But the hand by itself, it's a literally tiny little. And then if it's fluffier, if it's with no meat at all, it's very skinny. So these needs to be looked at. And then because these are very, very damaging kind of, words, that if you tell someone that, okay, you are a very mean person, I think you'll get a punch right in your face. So never do that. First grab. I mean, I had the opportunity to talk to a person, and that person, and I was very beginning of my astrology thing. So I was looking for guinea pigs. So he just happened to be. This is back in Norway. This guy comes to me. He just found me somewhere, from a friend. So he came, and I had time. He had time. So we did the chart. Used to do, some early programming the chart, drawing the chart. So I tried to study it. You know what? The person, the testimony all across. His chart was that he is a fornicator. He's a womanizer. And I'm just new with these things, I don't know, how do I tell him that, and he had me swear that I will tell him everything I know. And I told him, listen, I'm new, but, don't mind if I, if I end up saying something wrong. He said, no, it's okay, but, so, and so far he said, you know what, and we spent about 2-3 hours and really liked my interpretations and all that. And then I slowly and gradually I brought him to the point where he ended up admitting, yes, he was that kind of a person. And then he said, you know what, I'm looking for that I can use some kind of, magic or something, or some, talisman, to do these kind of things. I thought, you know what, I just started, so I don't know. But even if I knew, after knowing who you are, I'm not going to help you with this. Thank you very much. You are a good subject to me, and I learned a lot of things. It confirmed a lot of things, and you were very frank in admitting everything. Not everybody's that frank, I know an astrologer. She was in Akron, America, Ohio. Columbus, Ohio. Yeah. It's Akron near Columbus, I think. She was telling me one day that she said to one of her client, that this is who you are, and he just slapped her. So, and she was like, oh God, even though she was very experienced, but you have to be very careful when you make these kind of judgments, because it's still a hand, and you may be miswriting the hand. So always please get the testimony, because we are talking about the short hands. That's what palmistry says about it, and my experience too. So, but again, you have to actually look at a hand and make sure this is the hand, and this hand is actually like that. So be very careful. Saying, okay, you are extravagant, you spend money, that's easy to say. But if you say, you know what, you're a miser, you don't want to spend money, in fact, you like other people's money, then it's entirely different issue. So be careful. You don't want to get, in your face. And in the opposite, a bigger hand, the person is detail oriented, extravagance in his is in actions, in his way. He goes into nitty gritties, and he wants to know everything. He's like, again, kind of a like a flat hand. He's like because his palm is bigger, so he is more. He wants more. He's more like industrious in action. And by the way, I just missed one point, that the short hands, they are also kind of intuitive hands too. They can actually sense you right from the very moment. They're like, you must have seen people, the conman type of thing. They can actually they pick people. They are very intuitive. So they're kind of, especially if a small hand is a pointed hand. Pointed, or maybe industrious, being a flat hand, or so it has to square or something, small square but pointed. So they become intuitive. So they can actually, right from the passing, they say, okay, that guy is my target. So they are very good at it. So you have to understand this point as well. So the bigger hand also, it's not normal hand, too big hand. They're also is that kind of a personality, but not as mean as the small hand. So you will find them also, very much in the same area. So because they are looking for information, they are digging in, so they are greedy, they are spying, kind of, what are you, what are they doing, what are you doing, where are you, what is happening. They're always something. They're in search of what's happening on the other side. So they will be, and they are greedy, fundamentally. But again, even these people are, if there's the small hand in that sense, and when the bigger hand, too big hand, they are like more industrious. They don't tend to be sitting in one place. They're like more in flat hand nature. So they like to move on all the time. So they don't stick around. So if a con man and a traveler, so you can imagine, he does thing and move on, does thing and move on, does thing and move. So these people are, whereas a small square hand will tend to be staying in its own environment. But the bigger hand will not be like a flat hand, but it's not. Actually a bigger hand than the body. So if a kid has a hand of a man, you can tell, what this boy got a very big hand. So big people also have big hands, bigger than their bodies itself. They're also kind of heartless people. They're like cruel people. They can be ruthless at the times. So again, these are the people by because they have big hands. You can see the aggression in the by looking at in their body and their hands, the bigger hands, and you'll see, okay, these people have the tendency of, if you reason them or you something that they don't like, probably you get a slap in your face. And then bigger hand, when they're slimmer, they're like thin and tall. Those hands are really, really, maybe I don't know who to relate it to. I don't want to use the word. But they are like people with the heart of stone. That word alone should define them. So, so big hand, but tall and long and tall. The impression. So they are people with a heart of stone. Again, heart of stone. Maybe they have a nice heart. Maybe they fall in love with someone, but they are not stone there. But you will have to look into. But generally speaking, that's what the nature is going to be. If the hand is bigger and taller than it really looks, the person has heart of stone. So it's like narrow. It's very narrow from here. So you can see a wide hand and tall hand. That's a different one. But it's a tall hand, but very narrow. So these people are very, very selfish. They will be self-centered people. When you meet such people, you regret meeting them. That's one thing. So every time you meet them, you say, "Oh God, I shouldn't have met him." They always leave something really, unpleasant behind, and you have some bad experience to take with you. So then a tall hand, bigger than body, normal, and very narrow. You mean not too wide? It's like thinner, okay. And then it's not meteor. It's like dry. You can feel the bone. This even more harsher person. It's more cruel person. The tendency gets worse. So that's with the no meat at all. He will say anything that comes to his mind and on his tongue. He can't stop it. It can really be very, very, very abusive at the time. So that's why people they regret talking to them. All right. So the positive side is because they are very cruel and they're selfish, they're self-centered, but they are also intuitive, and they're all the negatives that they have. But the positive is that they are very, very intelligent people. They actually use their brains. I mean, if like it's in the wrong direction, but there's no doubt that they are very, very brainy people. So they're not stupid. It's just that their mind and soul works in a certain direction. Okay, on the women's side, if you women have very thin hair on the back of the hand. So I will discuss both the women's hand and the man's hand, and they have hair on the back. So women start off with a very tiny gold. And if you look very closely, only then you can see them. Naturally, usually they do threading and waxing and all that, so you don't see. But in the normal conditions, you will see a very, very tiny thin hair. You can't make it. So that's the sophistication of a woman. And it tells that this woman is very sophisticated. She's a normal human being. There's no abnormal tendency in either way. Being mean or extravagant or practical or non-practical. It shows their sophistication. They're very sophisticated, and the way a normal woman should be. So it's a nice hair, very tiny gold hair, gold-like, maybe depending on the culture and the country. But the tiny hair, they are reflective of a very nice personality of a woman. And if a woman has a lot of hair, so that means that she's lustrous. She's more desirous. She's a person with physical needs, kind of an animalistic tendencies, and it's the other side of a sophisticated person, that a woman that I was talking about. So too many hair, dark hair, strong hairs. So you're actually looking at, generally speaking, a personality which is more on a physical level. So same way, if a man has a lot of hair, so It shows a lot of physical strength, like a flat and industrious person, or even practical hand, with square hand. So person who can actually um, do some more physical work, like has an impact of like margin type of person will have a lot of hair. The more the hair, the more kind of a wolf kind of wolf kind of a nature, wolf kind of a, person is strong build, strong, a lustrous personality, and very physical person. But one point to note here, again, I keep throwing warning on you. I know a person well built, lot of hair on the body, and that's because it's the Mars, the level of energy a person has. In normally speaking, a person with a lot of hair on the hand is going to be more like uneducated person, more like a commoner who is doing maybe you're picking up your doing very low level work in the streets, or otherwise a laborer, is not really educated, in other words. So but I've seen people with a lot of hair, but very highly educated as well, very sophisticated people. So don't be judgmental. Okay, I keep throwing warning on you, whereas it does tell you that this is the area they are in. For example, if a person has a pointed hand, doesn't mean that the person is really doesn't care about his life, and he's like all the time, smoking everything in the air. So that's not the case. It's the tendency, is the canvas itself that the person comes on. The person is very physical. Now, if physical person gets more educated and well trained, comes from a very good environment, very good family, they would definitely be a sophisticated person. So it's really not going to, but it does tell that the person, you can look at the hairy hand, this person, if I give him this job, he will not be sitting and complaining, oh, I'm tired, oh, you know what, I need to go to bed, and he will just finish the job. This person I'm talking about, I know, he was always doing something, Well, when it comes to your home, he does something for you. He'll fix something in your home. Your bulb is broken, you change your bulb. Your computer is broken, you fix your computer. If your gutter is broken, you'll fix your gutter. Just because he can't sit idle, he's just physically very strong, and he loves to do things. They can be players, for example. Very rarely, they could be stronger people. So that's very important that you understand that where this shows as a very negative. But again, by looking at a person, you can tell if this person is a PhD, or he's just hardly, maybe not even a primary school graduate. So by looking at that, then when you see those kind of hair, then you can make that judgment that because this person is not as educated, the animal instincts are grabbing this person. They are overwhelmingly taken over this person. So if, let's say, influence itself. So if there's an impact of a bigger influence on you, and then you train it and you control it, the power to yourself, then it's really is a very good thing, that you can actually manipulate that power, the energy that you have, in your own favor. So this is why, these people, who have hairy, strong build, you can put them in the armies, maybe, put them on in any adventure project. So they will be very handy people doing things for you. So one point to note is that, those hair, if you have a lot of hair, the condition of the hair will also tell you what kind of person it is. Literally, if you have too many hairs, but they are nice looking, that's in a man's hand. If they're nice looking sophisticated hair, then the person is sophisticated. But if you, for the rough, as the skin, as the hair, they all become more rough and rough looking, the personality. So it's a general impression so far that we are just by looking at a glass on a hand, we are trying to determine a little quality that, okay, this is the canvas of the person, this is how a person is going to look, and this is his qualities, how he behaves outwardly, and then because of that, how where he's coming from, for like mental attitude, for example, by being mean. If you're like, trying to grab somebody into sweet talk and say, okay, what, lure into and buy this thing. You go, a salesman does that to you. When he's talking too much, he's trying to lure you into something, you'll always walk away, say, what is it? Yeah. So, you can sense those things. So that sense also works on your hands. You can actually look at it. There was a note that I once read um, one of my uncles. He was a head constable, which is like the head of the police of the district, and he had notes, and he said, that he was defining. I mean, we're talking about in the terms of this, but actually, police used the shape and structure of the hand to determine the personality, to determine if this person can actually be a criminal. So I read those notes. I was a child and I just came across his handbooks. So and in his training, he would just look at the person and say, and he writes one of the incidents. He says that there was a person going across, and he said, "Do you think that person is criminal or not?" So he said, everybody said, "No, he looks a very nice person." He said, "Okay, call him up." So they called him up and said, "You know what? I think you are hiding something." And he swore on the book that he doesn't have anything. Okay, fine. Everybody believe him? Yes, we believe him. It's okay. Search him. So they searched him and they found some illegal drugs on him. So hashish, I guess, I think it was. So they found hashish on him. So you know what? See how he says, how he portrays, and how he is. So because he could make up by the structure of the person that his person, but he didn't make any final decision until it really you get in. But again, he may have used it as a dummy person to make a point or the training or something. But again, everything is situational. Everything requires a secondary opinion, a second testimony. I always got, if there's no second testimony for anything that you find out, it will only happen once and will never repeat itself. If it does repeat itself, it will be maybe 20 years apart, 30 years apart, once in a lifetime, or twice a lifetime. So never make a judgment of a person that the person is like that all the time. So some people just give up under the situations. So they will do it, but that's only under the situation. If that situation doesn't exist, it never happens. So that's why you have to be very careful when you give out a judgment just based upon the structure of the hand. So I'm ending it here. This is still a very long talk on these subjects. I'll cover a little bit more on it. I'm going to, right after this, I'm going to share a few hands, a hand of a laborer and a very tall hand, a very midget hand if I can find, just to make a point. So you can have a visual impact. And then from now on, after watching this video, you will be looking at people's hand. If they're really small, they're very small and narrow, tall, wide, or those kind of things. But don't be judgmental. Again, you'll be putting yourself in trouble because you'll be learning a very wrong thing by making a judgment. All right. So stay with me. I'll see you in the next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Have your friends like and subscribe, and do comment. This way I can actually improve myself. It's just a learning. Again, it's a learning. It's a knowledge. Never take it as a fortune telling. It's just we are trying to learn the psychology of a certain structure. Okay, a hand or a body, a language or something. All right. So I'll see you in next video.